I sat in my car, the engine idling as I stared at the plain building before me. The scent of rain-soaked earth filled the air, and a sense of foreboding hung beneath the overcast sky. It had been 10 years since I last saw my sister Jessie, who disappeared from our lives under mysterious circumstances. My parents forbade us from ever mentioning her, branding her a traitor who had chosen Satan over family. But here I was, about to see her after all these years, driven by curiosity, fear, and a desperate need for closure. I had replayed our brief encounter at the optometrist's office in my mind for days, her face a haunting echo of my own. Jessie had given me a card with her number, urging me to meet her. Now, my hand trembled as I held that card, its crumpled edges a testament to my indecision. Fear gripped me, but it wasn't just fear of the unknown. It was fear of everything I had been taught and built my life upon. My entire existence revolved around proving my loyalty to my parents and our church. I had married young and had 4 children by the age of 23, a life devoted to obedience. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car and walked towards the café where Jessie had asked to meet. The bell above the door chimed softly as I entered, and I spotted her immediately. She looked older, wearier, but her eyes still held that same defiant spark. As I approached, she stood and hugged me, and for a moment, I was that little girl again, yearning for my big sister's embrace. We sat down, and for a moment, there was only silence. The cafe was quiet, with murmured conversations and clinking cups as soothing background noise. Jessie began to speak, her voice trembling slightly. She recounted the years of abuse she had endured at the hands of her husband, the man our parents had chosen for her. When she begged the minister for help, he coldly refused, leaving her no choice but to flee for her own safety and that of her son. Her words were like a punch to the gut. I had always believed my parents' version of the story, that Jessie had willingly turned her back on us. But now, doubt began to creep in, gnawing at the foundations of my faith and trust in my parents. I remembered the stern lectures, the rigid expectations, and the absolute obedience demanded by the church. It had always been presented as a place of love and security, but now it seemed more like a prison. Jessie's eyes bore into mine as she continued, explaining how she had tried to contact me over the years, only to be blocked at every turn by our parents. They had done everything to erase her from my life, to make me forget. The realization that I had been manipulated filled me with a deep sense of betrayal. I had spent years hating my sister, believing she had abandoned us, when in reality, she had been a victim. As she spoke, my mind was a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. I wanted to believe her, to embrace her and rebuild the bond we once had, but the years of indoctrination made it difficult. The teachings of the church, the loyalty to my parents, and the life I had built on those foundations were all being called into question. Jessie reached across the table and took my hand, her grip firm and reassuring. She urged me to think about my daughters, to consider the environment they were growing up in. Her words resonated with a part of me that had long been suppressed, the part that questioned, doubted, and yearned for something more. Leaving the cafe, I felt like I was standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into the unknown. The shadows of my past were thick and oppressive, but for the first time, I saw a glimmer of light breaking through. The drive home was a blur, my thoughts tangled and chaotic. Memories of my childhood flooded my mind, interspersed with snippets of Jessie's revelations. I had always viewed our church as a sanctuary, a place of love and support. But now, cracks began to appear in that facade, revealing a darker truth beneath. When I arrived home, my husband, David, was waiting for me. His concern was evident as he took in my disheveled appearance and the tears staining my cheeks. I tried to explain the conversation I had with Jessie, but the words caught in my throat, tangled with years of suppressed emotions and indoctrination. David listened, his expression a mix of shock and disbelief. He had always been a devout member of our church, but he had also been supportive and loving, never forcing me into anything I wasn't comfortable with. As I recounted Jessie's story, I saw the wheels turning in his mind. He, too, had questions and doubts, buried beneath layers of loyalty and devotion. I spent the following days in turmoil, questioning everything I had ever known. I began researching cults, reading stories from others who had escaped similar situations. The more I learned, the more I saw the parallels to my own life. The teachings of the church, the strict control over our lives, the fear of questioning authority, it all pointed to a reality I had been blind to for so long. My nights were filled with restless sleep, haunted by dreams of Jesse and the life I could have had if things had been different. During the day, I watched my daughters, their innocent faces a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. I couldn't let them suffer the same fate. They deserved a chance to grow up free from the oppressive control that had dominated my life. One evening, after the girls had gone to bed, David and I sat down to talk. The tension between us had been growing, an unspoken acknowledgement of the changes happening within us. I expressed my fears and doubts, and he shared his own concerns. We realized that we both wanted the same thing, for our daughters to have a better life, free from the shadows of the past. Deciding to leave the church was a tumultuous process. The decision weighed heavily on us, and we knew it would have far-reaching consequences. We faced judgment and ostracism from the community we had once called family. Friends turned their backs on us, and the whispers of betrayal followed us wherever we went. Despite the challenges, there was a sense of liberation in breaking free. We began to explore new possibilities, seeking out places of worship that welcomed us without conditions or expectations. It was a slow and often painful process, but with each step, the weight of our past began to lift. Jesse became a pillar of strength for me during this time. We spent countless hours talking, rebuilding the bond that had been severed for so long. She helped me navigate the challenges of leaving a controlling environment, offering advice and support drawn from her own experiences. Together, we began to heal the wounds of the past. David and I found a new place to worship, one that embraced us with open arms and no demands. Our daughters thrived in their newfound freedom, their laughter a balm to my weary soul. We began to build a new life, one based on love, trust, and mutual respect. The shadows of the past still lingered, but they no longer held the same power over me. I had faced my fears, questioned my beliefs, and found a strength I never knew I had. And as I looked at my family, I knew that we would be okay. We had each other, and that was enough. Years later, I still think about those dark days when my world was turned upside down. I still have questions, doubts, and fears, but I've learned to live with them. They are a part of my journey, a reminder of how far I've come. Jesse and I often talk about our parents and the church, reflecting on the pain and the lessons we've learned. We found peace in our shared experiences and the knowledge that we're no longer alone. My daughters are growing up strong and independent, free to make their own choices and live their own lives. They know our story, and they understand the importance of questioning and seeking the truth. As for me, I've found a new sense of purpose. I help others who are struggling to leave controlling environments, sharing my story and offering support. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. The shadows of devotion may always be a part of me, but they no longer define me. I am more than the sum of my past, and I have the power to shape my future. And that, I've learned, is the greatest gift of all.